I'm Melanie Johnson along with my co-host Jen Foster. We are both 13-time best-selling authors. We've published over 2,500 books and made all of our authors #1 bestsellers. We own Elite Online Publishing. If you want to become a best-selling author, look us up at eliteonlinepublishing.com. Now, welcome to the podcast that shares secrets from top industry experts that show you how to get lasting success and results. This is the Elite Expert Insider Podcast. Hi, this is Melanie Johnson with another great podcast. I have Jen Foster in the house with me today. Hey, Jen, how you doing?
Great. How's everyone today? It's a beautiful day.
It is. And we are going to be talking about something that I think is affecting a lot of people recently. We're going to be talking about anxiety, panic attacks, how to overcome these things. I know so many people, even young people, especially our kids, are getting these anxieties, and the anxieties turning into OCD more so than it ever did before. So we have the author of 10 Steps to Stop Your Anxiety, and how to stop panic attacks. So we are going to dive deep in that today. But before we get there, I want to make sure that you subscribe to our podcast. So we're looking to hit as many subscribers as possible. And when you do subscribe, then you get notifications of what our great interviews are about. And make sure you share it on social media as well. So we are talking about anxiety and panic attacks today. I'll get it out, and how to cure them and not to have them at all. That's what we'd all want to know, without taking a pill. That's what I really want to know, how to do it without taking a pill. And on top of it, she's an expert, Sandra. Sandra, you're going to tell me how to say your last name, because we didn't really do that.
Scheinbaum.
Sandra Scheinbaum is here. And she's 70, hello, and she has more energy than she did when she was 35. So I want to know all the recipes for that and how to do it without medication, because she's an expert at functional medicine as well. Welcome, Sandra. Thanks for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I'm excited to speak to you and your listeners.
Great. Well, tell us a little bit about how you got started in this field and how you became this expert.
Well, I'm old, so it's a long story. I started out as a school teacher. I was in special education. I taught in a classroom. I taught at a local college that was teaching. It's all about training people to be special education teachers. And I was always interested in what didn't have a name at the time. We're talking in the early 70s, mind-body medicine. And so I loved learning. I went on and got a doctorate, became a clinical psychologist, spent many, many years, close to 40, working with really thousands of people, and was focusing on how you can change things in your body by changing your thoughts, changing how you interpret things. And that led then to pursuing more training in functional medicine through the Institute for Functional Medicine, because when you are trying to reach a calm state, for example, it's more than just changing your thoughts. You have to pay attention to what you're eating, the quality of your sleep. Are you moving around? So I used to get terrible panic attacks when I was in my 20s, where I'd have to go to the emergency room. I thought I was going to die. They were so bad. And at the time, I didn't realize, well, I was also binging on sugar. I wasn't working out, and I was using thoughts that were pretty scary. I was scaring myself, thinking there was something horribly wrong. So I studied functional medicine, and that's where you address the root causes of what's going on. So I learned about how food, for example, plays a big role and is connected to our thought processing and our emotional regulation. And then when I was 65, I had been a psychologist for many, many years, and I was not ready to retire. And luckily, I always say it's because I didn't like to play cards, and that was all where all my contemporaries were. They're retired, they're playing canasta and mahjong. That just wasn't for me. I have a lot of energy, and I have a mission, and the mission is to train health coaches and train them in all of the things that I had learned, both personally as well as I knew worked with all of the clients that I had been seeing over the years. So now that was 5 years ago. We've trained over 3,000 people all over the world. And it's so exciting, because I'd like to see the day when there is a health coach in every office, and they are the key to really helping people to overcome chronic disease, and they're not therapists, but they provide so much emotional support, which we really, really need right now for, as you said, all the anxiety that people are dealing with. Even people who didn't have anxiety before now are suffering from this.
Yeah. Would you say anxiety or panic attacks are really like ramped up anxiety,
Yes,
right? Like it's just
yes.
that pinnacle. And I know with my son, it's, I've taken him, he's had different therapies, like you say, the thought process and things like that. And he's to the point where it just, none of it works, mom. None of it works. But I think one of the aha moments of what you already said is, well, what did you eat today? Are you having more sugar? Did you have too much caffeine? So, what are some of the food triggers and things that someone who has anxiety should be avoiding?
Well, caffeine is a big one. And probably bigger than that would be sugar. There's hidden sugars in everything. Sugar is inflammatory. And when you are very, very anxious, it's like your brain being on fire. And it's not only anxiety, but it's depression. We all have our weak link. So some people might be prone more to anxiety. And it could be just you're worried, I always thought I was a worrier, and I thought it was just inherited. My mother was described as a worrier, and that's how she called herself. I thought, well, it's just in the genes. And then well, no, because the brain has what we call neuroplasticity. We can change. And every time we have a different thought, then that is creating a new pathway. And so when we have a poor diet, when we eat a lot of processed foods, a lot of things that are made with what are so-called inflammatory oils, for example, then think about anything that has a food label on it that says healthy for you is probably not so healthy. Things that are packaged in box and come in wrappers. So we eat these things all day long. We're also snacking all day long. And so this is going to affect our decision making. It's affecting what we call the executive functioning in the brain. So it may lead us to have it's like we have this habit now where we are used to thinking in a certain way that would be called pessimistic. So you had mentioned your son, like, I don't think any of these are working. I
Mhm.
would say, bingo, that's a classic misinterpretation. So if I were working with him, I would say, well, 100%, like absolutely no exception. For that statement to be true, it would mean that, have you ever had any moment where you've tried something and you felt like 1 degree better? Then, okay, that made that statement false. You revise that statement to say, for now, a lot of the things I've tried haven't worked. And I'm going to, with practice,
Mhm.
I can have this hope that it will improve, that one of these things will get better, or I'm going to celebrate. I tried one of the tactics and I felt better for a little bit. Yay, you celebrate that.
Mhm.
That's a different orientation. When you do that, you have different brain chemicals being made. And so you're then going to experience a better state of calm, and it'll be easier the next time to focus on what we would call realistic thinking. And particularly if you are aware of other things that are so powerful. We mentioned food, but what about sleep? If you are getting a good night's sleep, that might mean it might mean turning off lights or getting blue blocking glasses if you're on the screen till late at night. What about exercise? We know that going even a 10-minute walk can help. So before this interview, I knew I didn't have time for my usual walk that would be like at least a half hour, but I had 10 minutes. Well, that 10 minutes was restorative. And especially if you have access to sunshine, many people have anxiety or depression because their vitamin D levels are low. And so that's what a functional medicine doctor would do. They would look at all of this and look at the big picture to say, what about the key nutrients that your brain needs? Are they optimal? So they might do some specialized testing. And the other thing is, do you have meaning and purpose in your life? Do you have something that brings you joy? Are you connected with people that you enjoy being with? And especially now, that can be hard for so many people.
Yeah, you've touched on so many great points. I love what you were talking about with your mindset, because the words that you choose and the words that you say really matter. So saying something like never or then saying possibility, there's so much power in both of those words. And to remember about what words you're saying to yourself. I think that's really important to change, like what you talked about. So those who didn't hear it, rewind and listen again, right? But Sandra, I also love what you're talking about vitamin D, because I think a lot of times, especially, depending on where you live and if it's a rainy or even winter time when it's snowing and that kind of thing, people can get depressed, and it is that vitamin D deficiency. So getting outside and taking that walk in the sunshine, and not just taking a pill that says it has vitamin D in it, but actually going in the sun has so much power.
What other supplements do you recommend? And also, I want to talk about sleep a little bit. It's like getting the right sleep, but sometimes when you have anxiety, you can't sleep. It's like, that's the thing where that brain is kicking in and whatever maybe you ate during the day or what you didn't. So it's like that vicious cycle. So how do you make sure you get good sleep and other supplements you could take?
Sure. So I want to say that I used to be a clinical psychologist. Now I am CEO of Functional Medicine Coaching Academy. So it's outside of the scope of practice of a psychologist. And now I'm not practicing anyway. So it would be, and my trained health coaches, and they do not recommend particular supplements. So I suggest that you look at really what are the B vitamins are calming, but you would never just go to the store or go online and just order something. You want to have a nutritional consultation. So if you are looking to amp up your health and you're concerned, I think that we know that it's very difficult to get all of our vitamins and minerals from food, particularly minerals. The soil is depleted. And so magnesium is one that most people are deficient in. And so check with your doctor and see, could you use a magnesium? And then it gets more complicated because there are different forms of magnesium. So again, you just don't want to walk into your local drugstore or health food store and just pick up something off the shelf. You want to really consult with a nutritionist or a functional medicine doctor, would really do the type of analysis to see exactly. But just in a nutshell, vitamin D, fish oil. Many people are vegetarian and they don't eat fish. And so you want to have your doctor look at that. You can get your levels of omega-3 tested, and often that can be connected to issues with brain health and B vitamins and mineral. Many people are depleted in minerals. So check with your doctor or check with a nutritionist.
I think that's important. I see a lot of people that will drink the bottled water that is, still water, right? There's no minerals in it at all. I won't name any brands, but and I always think, why do they buy that? Like that's what you use to iron your clothes. So
Yeah,
I don't know what they're
yeah,
doing.
yeah,
Because the minerals are what
exactly.
really help you. So, I grew up
Yeah.
in a town with a spring as our water source. So it had lots of minerals in it and it tasted delicious. And so I'm not used to that now when you're drinking bottled water to buy the good bottled water.
Absolutely. And you had mentioned earlier sleep. So often people get really upset telling themselves, I have to get a good night's sleep, and that alone will make you anxious. And so, what you want to do is fall in love with darkness, with sleep process. And so, there are some hacks that you can want to make sure that you are not, for many people, the last thing they do at night is check their phone. And that light can really disturb the what is necessary to get a good night's rest. And so one thing that you might look at would be the amount of junk light, the amount of blue light that you have. So if you're watching TV late at night, if you're on your computer, on your phone, that's something that can interfere with sleep. And if you combine that with, if you're anxious about it, thinking I need to get to sleep, or if you're labeling yourself as an insomniac, then just again with those words are really powerful. And now you're scaring yourself, and maybe you're dwelling on it as you start to get ready to bed. Oh, I had a hard time falling asleep last night. What's tonight going to be like? And so you reverse that by focusing on your body knows what to do. You've fallen asleep hundreds of thousands of times. And if you were to slip when you were a baby, you knew how to get to sleep. So you want to start getting into that sense of trusting your body and powering down late at night to and what else sometimes, well, we know if you have an argument with a family member, let's say, or you're on the phone and it's disturbing and you're aggravating yourself, or watching the news late at night, those are things that can interfere with getting a good night's rest.
I love that. And just making sure that you say the right words, like we talked about before, and saying those powerful messages to yourself that, oh, I can sleep like a baby. I slept like a baby for years, when I was a baby, right?
Yes, yes,
I love that.
your body knows what you do, and you use that time when you get into bed to daydream. And there's something else that's very, very important, whether we're talking about getting to sleep or managing your thoughts and what's driving anxiety, and that is breathing. So for many, many years, I taught breathing. Way back in the 70s, I was doing this before they called it breath work, which it's now called. And it's really getting back to a baby. Watch a baby breathe. And they're breathing with their bellies, their tiny little bellies are going up and down. And so you put your hands over your belly and you just push it out and then pull it back in. So you push it out as you inhale, and then you draw in through your nose. And that's very, very calming. And if all you did was focus on a belly breath and make it really, really slow, like super slow motion, that's going to create a sense of calm. It's sending signals that you're going to be more in balance. You're going to be more in a state of balance. So breathing, don't forget to breathe.
There's a great app I've been using called BreatheWorks, and it throughout the day it's having you do different breathing exercises, either for calming or for energy, and I've really enjoyed that. We're talking about foods a little bit too. What do you say are calming foods for someone who has anxiety? Like we said, don't eat this, but what should we be doing? What should we be consuming?
So, well, you want to make sure that you are getting. A lot of people are protein deprived, so I think it's not so much kind of calming foods; it's what you might want to avoid. But as far as foods, it's just the general good nutritional recommendation. So you want to, we call it eat the rainbow, and so look at a variety of, you want to have lots of greens and little spices, dashes of color. So how many colors can you get in during the day? And so be creative. And so the other thing that with food, you want to make sure you have joy of food. Sometimes we get so caught up in micromanaging what we're eating, and we're so worried, are we getting the right nutrients and the right balance, and we're counting calories or counting carbs, and that can throw us off track in terms of not getting the joy of food. So what do we need first and foremost with anxiety? We need to be digesting our food. So let's start there. Let's chew our food enough so that we're producing the saliva, that digestive enzymes are already present in our saliva in our mouth. So taking the time to really chew it well instead of multitasking and just quickly eating and swallowing things whole, not even tasting, and then overeating. And now you're going to feel more anxious. And that's going to extend even to the next day. So you want to limit the processed carbs and focus on whole carbs. So instead of having like a juice, have the whole fruit. That would be an example of something that is whole. And the less ingredients that you have on a package, the better. If it has words that you can't pronounce, you shouldn't be eating it that sound like chemicals. And then making sure you have adequate protein and adequate fats. So you want to be having great things like olive oil and avocados, healthy fats that are, and if you eat fish, the wild salmon, the mackerel and anchovies, those are foods that are high in omega-3s, and those are brain foods. And so we used to fear fat. We used to fear that fat was bad. I remember that in the 80s and 90s. And was fat-free. And so now we have better science, and we're looking at not vilifying fat, but we need fat to have a healthy brain.
And what would you say about laughter? You say laughter is so important.
Oh, they say laughter is the best medicine. It is so important. So at Functional Medicine Coaching Academy, we teach based on positive psychology. And that is based on the study of character strengths. What's right about us? What are these strengths that are in all of us? And one of them is humor. And it is one of the top strengths. So even when things are really, the world is in chaos, and under even the darkest circumstances, people have used humor. And we could look throughout history to see this. So using humor, whether you are somebody who likes to joke around, or like me, I'm terrible at joking around and I could never remember a joke, but I always laugh at jokes. So it's a time to really use humor.
I love
I
that.
love that. Yeah, I think that humor definitely, making sure that you're laughing. And if you have anxiety and you're depressed about things, you got to find something that makes you laugh.
Yeah,
It changes your whole state, right?
exactly. Laughter is a really great release. It's very, very therapeutic. And there's even just smiling. So
Yeah.
just the physical motion of creating a smile changes your brain chemistry.
I love that. So
Yes.
we're going to leave on that note. Remember to smile and laugh. You do that more. That's a good recipe to start with right there. Sandra, thanks so much for stopping by today.
It was a pleasure.
Where can people go to find more about you and to get more about your coaching services?
You can go to functionalmedicinecoaching.org. You can go to Facebook, Functional Medicine Coaching Academy, Instagram, Functional Med Coach. If you want to connect with me on Instagram, it's at Dr. Sandy, Sandi.
Terrific. Well, thanks for stopping by. Remember to subscribe to our podcast. We'll have those links in our show notes, so you can grab them there to connect with Sandra. And we'll see you next time. Remember, if you're looking to create a book or become an author, reach out to us at eliteonlinepublishing.com, where we make all of our authors #1 bestsellers. And we will see you next time right here. Have a great day.
Bye.
Hey, are you looking to increase your revenue, build credibility, and elevate your brand? This podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, an innovative publishing and full spectrum marketing company. They will publish and market your book to make it a #1 bestseller. Becoming an author is the best way to market your business. So contact them at eliteonlinepublishing.com today. All of their authors become #1 bestsellers.